Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Tony Mulvey, joined by Zach Strickland and co-host today, Thomas Wasson. It's time for a game of good idea and bad idea. Are y'all ready for it?
Let's go.
I'm in.
Are you in? Well, we're going to start with a topic that Zach, I know we've talked about it a lot, and Thomas, and the love for labor unions. Looking at the Teamsters, Teamsters are pointing blame at UPS for dissolving contract negotiations. We've seen the Teamsters and their president kind of be vocal, not just with UPS, but also about yellow. Good idea, bad idea to point blame at UPS publicly. Zach, I'll start with you.
I think it's, in this situation, may actually be a good idea because UPS is in a much better financial position than Yellow. Now, part of the debate has been whether or not Sean O'Brien is using Yellow, a dying entity, as kind of a sacrificial lamb in this negotiating process, just to kind of press and lean on UPS, which, you know, in this world, in this environment, they've started kind of making this statement from a negotiating standpoint that they're willing to sacrifice to win. Now, in terms of those 22,000 Yellow employees, this may not be great for them, but in terms of being on the negotiating table, you always have to be willing to, basically say, I'm going to call your bluff. And so in a pure negotiating standpoint, I think this may actually be a good idea.
Obviously willing to play hardball. I mean, Thomas, same question to you. Good idea or bad idea?
I like that framing. Talk about taking Yellow as a hostage to let you know that you're serious about UPS. It's like, look what's going to happen to this person. Oh, there goes Yellow. I'm serious now. 22,000 of my own union-paying members are gone, but guess what? I'm coming for you, Brown. I already got Yellow. We're going down the whole color list now. FedEx, you're not yet. You're contractor, luckily, so your colors are safe. But I got to say, it's a great idea. We're seeing a resurgence in labor. I wanted to take a counterpoint and make some anti-labor joke, but holy cow, it's the summer of discontent, and we are seeing with Canadian ports, we're seeing West Coast, we're seeing this resounding labor movement that since the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 and deregulation in trucking, labor's not really done much. So go out with a bang, not a whimper, I guess.
It's definitely one way to approach it. Again, there's some things that would be advisable, maybe some others that won't be, but definitely an interesting time. You know what's interesting, though, is we're still talking the derailment from Norfolk Southern. It is still making the news because state of Ohio is pressing the President Biden, for disaster relief for that derailment. Thomas, I will start with you on this one. Good idea, bad idea? Ohio, the state pressing the President there for relief.
That's a horrible idea. Am I going to pay for every train that falls over? Are you serious? Am I going to put my taxpayer dollars because a company? Take it up with a company. We let the rails operate with that. We have the Surface Transportation Board. They're looking into it. I'm not going to pay for the fact that a train car blew up. That's dumb. I mean, I want to pay for a lot of other dumb stuff, but at least I don't want to add to dumb stuff I have to pay for. So, in my personal opinion, trying to get the executive branch to give you funds and make it an emergency disaster, when a hurricane comes, I'd rather have the money for that.
Yep, absolutely. But I mean, Zach, what are your thoughts?
I think you're right in the way that you're affecting a result in the way, like, you don't really want taxpayer dollars to go to this. This is a bad habit. The rails are federally regulated to an extent, so therefore they do have a little bit of political exposure. Now, I don't think that we should have that it is a bad idea if that's the case, but I think it's a good idea from the standpoint of this is how they get something out of it. Now, whether it's from the rails or from the government or something, I mean, regardless, the people in Ohio need something, and they need attention on it. So this is a good way to kind of get that attention. Like it or not, this is the world we live in, where you have to be a little bit hyperbolic to get any attention anymore because we are flooded with information on a daily basis. And so they need something, and it may not be their end goal to get it from the government, but I think this is one of the avenues, and it's been useful in the past and effective in the past to make kind of a big statement politically.
Yeah, I think with news cycle shortening, right? I mean, you're talking 24 hours now is that news cycle. Keeping it in front of people keeps that pressure on. But I think there's a flip side to this. Norfolk Southern is trying to get the rail car owners to help pay for it. So the rail Norfolk Southern themselves don't want to take any of the blame or foot any of the bill. They're trying to get those that were the rail owners, the car owners, good idea, bad idea, trying to get the rail car owners to foot the bill.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a great idea. Putting all your blame on the people that basically supply you with all your means of transportation, this is a bad relationship maneuver right here. When you're talking about the people that are giving you the way for you to move goods throughout the country, your business model precisely, I think this is just a horrible idea if you're going to levy all of that leverage onto them paying for this and taking all that exposure and risk. Effectively, they could go out of business. They're the only relationship in this whole process.
I guess my question to that is it's a little different. Being chemicals, you don't see chemicals necessarily moved by truck. I guess they're only what is their real risk? I mean, is it moving from Norfolk Southern to CSX? I mean, because you're not gonna. I mean, like, what is there? Because those things can't just be moved by a truck, right? It's not like if it was like an intermodal container that can be kind of shifted around.
The rails have to share some of this burden and responsibility. Yep. They were operating the trains. Whether or not they've shown that the cars were at fault or not, I don't know the answer to that. If they were 100% at fault and it was clear to blame that it was on the rail cars, then yeah, there's probably a reason to kind of levy some of that onto them. But I don't know that this is a great maneuver to kind of just throw everything at them all at once, even if it is entirely their fault. They rely on this, on the rail cars to do their business.
It seems very similar to the Teamsters pointing blame. That
maybe a little posturing here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Thomas, same kind of question to you. Good idea, bad idea?
Great idea. Thomas's Pro CEO Move 101, deflect and blame. You have a rail car that exploded. Part of it was your fault. Part of it was the rail car. Part of it was your crappy maintenance. And part of it maybe would have been the rails themselves. And it's a game of hot potato. I don't want to be the one holding the potato, so I will blame them and I will threaten to take someone else with rail cars unless they get better rail cars. I mean, I think it's a great strategy. It's a little Machiavellian, but if I was in the situation in Norfolk Southern, I really don't want to be the one holding that potato right now.
Absolutely. And kind of turning away from this placing blame, but looking at risk in supply chains. Supply chain financing has become ever more important. You've seen a reliance on it, especially as when you think about carriers need to get paid, that cash flow. So companies are a little slower to pay now because they can be. I mean, overall, what this heavy use of risk that comes with using supply chain financing, good idea, bad idea, relying heavily on it, especially during this period?
Well, right now, with the federal rate increases, it's showing to be kind of not so good of an idea. The whole purpose of this is to free up some cash flow. Yep. and make sure that you have, it's basically polishing your balance sheet a little bit, and the suppliers get their money faster at a cost, and of course, as a payer, you get to kind of float some money. And it appears to be a win-win. However, I don't know that this environment is what it was designed for in such a rate volatility. Like, well, there's so much volatility with interest rates. The pace at which those interest rates were pushed higher has made this a little bit harder to swallow. Although I still think it's not the worst idea overall in the way that the cost of funds is still relatively cheap. And when you're talking about expanding those days payable to over 120 days in some cases, if you can get away with that, you're still getting a pretty cheap cost of funds.
Absolutely. And obviously 86 companies out of the S&P 500 use this supply chain financing. I mean, Thomas, good idea, bad idea, relying heavily on it overall.
Good idea if you can get a sucker to finance you. Phenomenal idea if I need financing. I'm one of those 86 companies. Yeah, give me some money. It's like investing in trucking. If I have a pension fund, I know I'm chasing yield, but come on, man. Are we going to chase that much yield? Are we going there? Because here's what's going to happen. You invest in trucking or supply chain, it's cyclical. And right now with interest rates and we're in a down market, Don't do it. I mean, look at Bed Bath & Beyond. Did they do supply chain financing? Are you going to get paid for that? Like, let's invest in AMC, for Christ's sakes. That's another great idea. Let's go for it. Chase the yield. Why not? And then, by the way, I'm going to go become a Morgan Stanley analyst while we're at it, too, and get paid twice as much.
Yeah, the financial sector has got to be careful here. They're buying stuff they may not fully understand. We got into this is the same type of debt bubble situation that we ran into in 2008, 2009 with the housing market. They were packaging basically money, like bills, and selling them off amongst each other. And that can get us into trouble.
Let's package the supply chain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now you're talking pushing payables out 90 plus days.
At some point, it's going to pop.
and the fallout from that can be extreme given these risks. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the Roundtable. Right now, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more Freightwaves Now.